Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name is Kyle. 21 years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was a roofing superintendent, working commercial projects that ate up 12 or 14 hours of my day. The money was solid, the benefits steady, and I kept telling myself every overtime shift was an investment in my family's future. At home, I had my wife, Gloria, and our two kids. Clara was 13, sharp with numbers and always sketching houses in her notebooks. Mason was 9, quick on his feet, and full of questions that I usually answered half distracted while checking work orders on my phone. Gloria ran a small event planning side business. She had a knack for details, but I figured most of her client meetings were just excuses to get out of the house. That spring, I missed Clara's piano recital and Mason's soccer final in the same week. "We'll celebrate this weekend," I told them. Gloria just looked at me across the kitchen island. "You're always gone, Kyle," she said. Her tone wasn't angry, just flat. "The kids notice." I brushed her off. "I'm building something here. Once the Johnson Tower project clears, we'll have breathing room. You'll see." She didn't push, but she didn't smile either. It was around then that I noticed small changes. Gloria bought a new set of dresses, sharper than the ones she usually wore. When I asked, she said, "Clients expect me to look professional." She spent more time out during the day, claiming she had site visits or last-minute consultations. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I told myself this was just a busy season, that things would balance out once the work slowed. The first real jolt came from something ordinary. One morning, I found an envelope from the Homeowners Association in our mailbox. Inside was a warning about a charcoal BMW that kept parking in our driveway during the day. They said neighbors had complained about excess vehicles, and that we needed to resolve it. I frowned. We didn't own a BMW. Gloria drove a silver minivan, and my truck rarely left the driveway except for work. That same evening, while I was rolling the trash bins out, Walter Pierce, my next-door neighbor, called over. He was the kind of man who noticed details. "You know, Kyle," he said, lowering his voice, "I've seen a tall man stopping by your place while you're gone. Sharp clothes, carries a leather bag, drives a dark BMW, shows up late mornings, leaves mid-afternoon." I forced a laugh. "Probably one of Gloria's clients. She's been busy lately." Walter tilted his head. "Maybe. Just thought you should know. Didn't look like business to me." I shrugged it off, but later that night I checked the shared calendar Gloria kept on the iPad. Blocks of time marked consultations popped up every week, always between 10 and 2. No names, no addresses, just meeting. The next day, while cleaning up the kitchen counter, I found a crumpled receipt tucked under the mail, coffee and pastries at a hotel cafe across town. The date matched one of her consults. I tried to ignore it, but my gut tightened. I wasn't a suspicious man by nature, but the pieces weren't lining up. That weekend, Walter waved me over again. This time he showed me his phone. It was a still frame from his doorbell camera. There in the shot was the BMW parked in my driveway at 11 in the morning. The image was time-stamped. Walter didn't say much. He just handed me the phone, let me look, and then slipped it back in his pocket. I drove to work Monday like nothing was wrong, but halfway there I made a decision. I was coming home at noon. That Monday, I left the site just before lunch and drove home without calling ahead. My truck rolled into the neighborhood right at noon. From the street, I could already see it, the charcoal BMW in my driveway. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I parked at the curb, walked straight up the path, and pushed the front door open. It wasn't locked. Voices carried from the kitchen. A man stepped out first, tall, dressed in a pressed shirt with sleeves rolled at the elbows. He froze when he saw me. For a moment, we just looked at each other. "You must be Kyle," he said. His voice was calm, almost polite. "I'm Savior." I nodded once. "Then you know you need to leave my house." He didn't argue. He slipped past me, walked down the path, and drove off without another word. I found Gloria in the kitchen. She was standing by the counter, her face pale, hands gripping a coffee mug. "Who is he?" I asked. My tone was flat, steady. She shook her head. "Kyle, it's not what it looks like." "Really?" I held up my phone. "Because Walter has footage, doorbell cam, dates, times, BMW in the driveway while I'm gone." Her voice sharpened. "Walter needs to mind his own business. He's been retired too long, watching everyone else's lives." I didn't blink. "This isn't about Walter. It's about you and him." She dropped the act then, her voice shifting into anger. "You're gone all the time. You care more about job sites than this family. I needed someone to talk to. Xavier listens. He's there." I let her words hang between us. "So that's it? You chose another man because I was working to keep this family afloat?" She slammed the mug down. "Don't twist this. You left me alone years ago." I nodded once. "If you need him, then you don't need me. Or this marriage." Her lips tightened. "Maybe you're right." That night, she packed a suitcase, hugged the kids briefly, and climbed into a taxi. By morning, she was gone. I told Clara and Mason the truth the next evening. Not the whole thing. They didn't need every detail, but enough to make sense of why their mother's side of the bed was empty. "She left with someone else," I said, sitting across from them at the dining table. "But you're not alone. I'm here. We'll figure this out." Clara's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Mason, younger, just stared at me. "Is she coming back?" he asked. I kept my voice steady. "No, not for a while. Maybe not at all." That week, I met with an attorney recommended by Walter. Her name was Diane Lawson, sharp and practical. She asked me if I wanted custody. "I don't want to fight," I told her, "but the kids need stability. If Gloria's with Xavier, she won't give them that." Gloria didn't make it easy. She dodged the paperwork, ignored court notices, and let months pass without showing up for hearings. Meanwhile, life at home shifted fast. Clara's grades slid, her teachers emailing me about missing assignments. Mason started refusing bedtime, pushing boundaries he'd never tested before. I built new routines. Up at 6, breakfast together, school drop-offs, work trimmed to 8-hour shifts, home by dinner. My sister drove over on weekends to cook and clean. Money grew tight. Gloria had contributed part-time income, and now I was covering everything while also paying legal fees. 9 months later, the divorce finalized by default. The judge granted me full custody with an open option for visitation, if Gloria ever chose to be consistent. She didn't. That night, I looked across the table at Clara and Mason finishing their homework. It wasn't the family I thought I'd built, but it was the one I had, and it was mine to keep steady. The years that followed weren't easy, but they gave me clarity. I stopped chasing overtime and started chasing minutes with my kids. Every school concert, every ball game, every late-night homework question. I was there. Clara steadied herself by throwing everything into academics. She spent hours at the library, sketching buildings in the margins of her notes. Mason found energy on the field. Baseball gave him a focus, something to burn his restlessness into. At a parent-teacher night during Mason's first year of high school, I met Lauren Kim, his math teacher. She had noticed Mason's stubborn streak and had worked out a way to channel it into leadership roles in group projects. After the meeting, she said, "He listens to you. If you back me up, we'll keep him on track." We started talking more after that, first about Mason, then about everything else. Coffee turned into dinners, and dinners into weekends where she quietly blended into our routines. She was always there, steady, practical, and kind. When Clara got her acceptance letter to study architecture with a scholarship, she ran into the kitchen waving it. Mason thumped her on the back, proud in his own way. That night, I realized we had crossed a line. We weren't surviving anymore. We were living again. Lauren didn't replace what had been lost, but then we married, and she helped us build something stronger. It was a Tuesday evening, 21 years after Gloria left. I had just finished mowing the lawn when the doorbell rang. Clara was living 2 hours away, Mason had his own place, so it was just me and Lauren at home. When I opened the door, I didn't recognize her at first. She was thinner, her hair short and gray, her face marked by time and something harsher. Then she spoke. "Kyle." Her voice was weaker than I remembered, but the rhythm was the same. "Gloria," I said evenly, "what are you doing here?" She hesitated, then asked if she could come inside. Out of habit more than warmth, I stepped aside. She walked into the living room, her eyes lingering on the framed photos of Clara's graduation and Mason's EMT ceremony. She sat carefully, like even the couch might reject her. "I don't have much time," she said. "Stage 4 ovarian cancer. Doctors gave me less than a year." She folded her hands. "When I left, I thought I was running towards something better. Xavier promised me a different life. What I got was control, drinking, and fists. For years I was stuck. No money, no family, nowhere to go. I wanted to call the kids, but I was ashamed. By the time I finally broke free, it was too late. He died 3 years ago. And then the diagnosis came. Her voice cracked, but I didn't move. I'm not here to beg for forgiveness, she continued. I just want to see Clara and Mason. One last time. Not as their mother. I know I gave that up. But as someone who once loved them. I leaned forward. That's not my decision. They're grown. If they want to see you, they will. But you don't get to walk in after 21 years and expect me to open that door for you. She nodded slowly. Can I at least have their numbers? I wrote them down on a slip of paper and handed it over. What happens next is between you and them. She stared at the paper as if it weighed more than her illness. Gloria called Clara first. She later told me how it went. They met once, in a quiet corner of a bakery halfway between their cities. Clara said she sat across from her, while Gloria tried to explain 21 years in a few broken sentences. When Clara told me about it later, her words were clipped. She said she was sorry, that she thought about me every day. But I told her I didn't need a mother now. I needed one when I was 13, when you were at work and I was holding Mason together. She chose someone else, and I don't have space for her now. Clara pushed her chair back and left Gloria sitting alone at that bakery table. Mason handled it differently. He called her. I overheard part of it because he had me on speaker for the first few minutes, then asked to finish it alone. His tone was steady, but his words cut. You left me when I was 9, he told her. I spent years thinking every adult would walk out. I fought coaches, teachers, even Dad, because I thought pushing people away first would hurt less. It took me a long time to unlearn that. You don't just show up now and expect me to hand you peace. Later, when he came by the house, Mason leaned against the counter and said, I'm glad she called. But no, I won't see her. That's her weight to carry. Gloria didn't push after that. She sent me one message a week later. Thank you for raising them strong. Thank you for not turning them against me. I know their answers. I accept them. One evening, they both came over for dinner. After we cleared the plates, Mason leaned back in his chair. Do you regret it, Dad? Not pushing us to see her? I shook my head. No, that was your call. She left searching for more. We stayed and built enough. You don't owe her what she didn't earn. Clara reached across the table, resting her hand on mine for just a second. You did more than enough. That night, after they left, I sat on the porch with Walter. He was older now, slower in his steps, but still sharp. He lifted a glass of iced tea and said, You kept the frame solid, Kyle. That's what mattered. I thought about it. 21 years earlier, I measured my worth in hours worked and paychecks earned. I thought security came from stacking enough bricks, roofing enough towers, but the real foundation had been built in the smaller things, showing up, keeping promises, choosing presence over excuses. I looked across the yard at the house I had once nearly lost, the one that had seen late-night homework fights, slammed doors, graduations, and dinners where laughter eventually replaced silence. Gloria's absence left scars, no question. But those scars had shaped Clara and Mason into strong adults. They had chosen boundaries over guilt, just as I had chosen steadiness over anger. In the end, that was the power shift. She left with another man. We stayed and built a family anyway. And we didn't just survive, we endured, and we became stronger for it. Thank you for watching.